Happy holidays. Today is the holiday of love. It's Tu B'Av. It's the greatest holiday on the Jewish calendar. The Talmud tells us something absolutely fascinating, which is the secret to love, the secret to finding one's spouse, and more importantly, or just as important, the secret that once you find your spouse, how to happily stay married. I'm going to share the screen so we could see the Talmud Tractate Ta'anit 26b. Here's what the Talmud says. Look at the screen in front of you. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Lo hayu yamim tovim leIsrael k'chamisha abba v'cho yom kippurim. There weren't greater days of joy for the Jews than Tu B'Av, which is today, and like Yom Kippur. That what happened in the olden days? Shebahen Benot Yerushalayim Yotzot, the daughters of Jerusalem would go out on this day, Biklei Lavan Sheulim, with borrowed clothing, white clothing. Shelo levayesh et mi she'en lo. Why did they have borrowed clothing? Because not to embarrass a person who didn't have their own white clothing. And the clothing that need required immersion. I'm not going to get into all the laws of immersion now, but they all wore white. Bottom line, what did they do? Ubenot Yerushalayim, on this day, today, tonight, last night in Jerusalem, in the olden days, it was a great party. Benot Yerushalayim Yotzot, the daughters of Jerusalem would go out, V'cholot b'karamim, and they would dance. They would dance in the vineyards, and there would be guys, boys, filing past them. What would the girls, the young girls, the Jerusalemite girls, what would they say to the boys? These single girls, the ones looking for their spouse, they want to get married. What would they say to the boys? And here's the secret to finding your spouse and saying married. They would say, Bachur, young man, Sana inecha ure'eh, lift up your eyes and look and see ma'ata borer lecha, what you are choosing. Al titen enecha benoi, don't look at beauty. Ten enecha b'mishpacha, look at family. And the Yerushalmi Talmud, and there's another version, says the ones who were rich said, look at us, it's about richness, about money. The ones who had yiches, lineage, said, look at us, it's about lineage. And the ones who had who were beautiful said, look at us, we are beautiful. And the ones who had nothing said, don't look at beauty. But I want to focus on the words. There's a lot of depth in this whole words of the Talmud and this whole ritual that what happened, which today is day and age, obviously we don't have this. But I want to focus on this secret, the one word, the one line that the Jerusalemite girls asked of the boys. What did they say? They said, Bachur, young man, Sana inecha ure'eh, lift up your eyes and see. And let me explain. You see, the daughters of Jerusalem knew that in order for a shidduch to succeed, in order for a young man to be able to stay married, in order for the young man to find his spouse, he needed to lift up his eyes, meaning as follows. You see, in today's day and age, there are literally thousands, maybe tens of thousands of single eligible boys, bachelors, and girls. So how do you find your spouse? What do you do? Right? I know I have a list. I want somebody who's handsome. I want somebody who's college educated. I want somebody who has a degree. Let's just say those are your criteria. I want somebody who's extremely intelligent. I want somebody who has a great heart. Right? We all have our list of 5 to 10 things. But if you narrow it down to those 5 or 10 items, there are still probably hundreds, if not thousands of people who match your criteria. So what do? You date and you date and you date and you figure out, okay, is this the one? Am I in love? Am I not in love? Do I feel this electricity, this chemistry between us? But it's so difficult. So the young girls had a secret, and they said as follows: young man, before you go out, before you start dating anybody, and this advice is for girls and for boys, before you start dating, lift up your eyes. Pray to the Almighty God that God direct you to find your soulmate. You see, every single person, the Talmud in Tractate Sotah says, every single one of us, 40 days before before the child is formed, before the fetus is formed, the angel comes to God and says, this one is for this one? And God says, let's say, no. So the angel asks, this one for this one? And they go through a couple of suggestions. By the way, all those suggestions, the boy and the girl actually have to meet. That's why sometimes you date people who are not your spouse. But eventually God says, no, this one, yes, for this one. So God says, that's your soulmate. So the person who you are supposed to marry, it's already ordained in heaven who your soulmate is. There doesn't exist an individual in this world who does not have a soulmate. We all have our soulmates. So the first thing the young girl said, young man, lift up your eyes, pray from the depths of your heart to God that he direct you to find your soulmate. After you followed step number 1, now look at your list. So you want somebody intelligent, you want somebody college educated, you want somebody who's from this country, you want somebody from here, from there, all your criteria that you have. Now, when you meet that person and you've prayed and it makes sense, jump in. It means that's your shidduch. It means you prayed from the depths of your heart and you meet somebody who, so to speak, fits that criteria and you like them, marry them. This will eventually, you will develop a relationship, a love, to start caring about them. Now, how do you stay married to them? It's the same secret. You see, when you have an argument with your spouse, you don't view your spouse, your husband, your wife as something separate to you. Just like when your right hand makes a mistake, you don't say, oh, you idiotic right hand, I'm so mad at you. You'll say, I made a mistake. What can I do? That's how you view your spouse. Your spouse is your soulmate. Your spouse is another part of you. It's you. It's the same person. You are one person in 2 bodies. So when you view your spouse as part of you, how could you be mad? How could you be angry at your spouse? Same way you're not upset with yourself when you make a mistake. Same thing is with your wife, with your husband. It's the same concept, same idea. The daughters of Jerusalem were teaching us the secret, not only to finding your spouse, but to staying married to your spouse. The story is told of a student of the Baal Shem Tov, a chassid of the Baal Shem Tov by the name of Yankel. He had a beautiful daughter. Yankel was a rich man, a learned man. His sons were scholars, his sons were learned, and he had a daughter. And he needed a shidduch for this daughter. So he came to the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov, do you have a suggestion? So the Baal Shem Tov said, come with me. He went to a faraway town, and he asked the townspeople, do you know anybody called Shmerel? And Shmerel, nobody heard of him. Shmerel, the Baal Shem Tov was looking for Shmerel. Anyways, there was some guy, Shmerel, in the town. And when he came to the Baal Shem Tov told him, go clean yourself up, go shower, put on nice clothing, and then come with me to this person, Yankel. And when Yankel comes to meet this guy, Shmerel, he sees this presentable guy. He looks good, and the Baal Shem Tov gives a glowing recommendation. So he says, fine, this person will be for my daughter. Anyway, they get married. The Baal Shem Tov is there for the wedding. And at the wedding, the Baal Shem Tov puts his handkerchief over this guy, and this guy expounds words of Torah. And everybody is so impressed with him. The brothers-in-law, the father-in-law, the mother-in-law, for 7 days of the Sheva Brachos, he is riling people up with his wisdom, with his charm, with his wit, with his Torah knowledge, with the length and breadth of his Torah knowledge and questions. They are so impressed and so excited with this shidduch. And the brothers-in-law and the father-in-law are so excited to spend Shabbos with him after the wedding and to spend months in learning with him after the wedding. Anyway, after the wedding, the bride, the wife, is always making excuses for her husband why he can't come, why he's not present at Shabbat. Oh, he's tired. Oh, he's sleeping in. And eventually the brothers and everybody realizes that this Shmerel guy is an ignoramus. He knows nothing. He sleeps in and he's barely able to perform any mitzvot. So Yankel comes running to the Baal Shem Tov and he says, how did you give me this shidduch? This guy Shmerel, he's an ignoramus. I have no idea how for 1 week he was able to fool us into thinking that he knows how to learn, but he doesn't. So the Baal Shem Tov said, listen, this guy, Shmerel, was your daughter's match. This guy, Shmerel, you're right, he's an ignorant person. He doesn't know any Torah, nothing. But I knew that you would never, ever, ever agree to this match. So in heaven, it was ordained that not only should this bride lose her father, but her father should also lose all his money. So she'll be a poor orphan. And also something should be a little off with her. So she'd be a little bit crazy. And only then would she agree to the shidduch with Shmerel. And in heaven, I saw this take place. And I said, let me make sure that Shmerel will marry this wife. And she won't have to become a sugar. And her father won't have to die. And her father won't have to lose his money. And that's exactly what I did. I put my handkerchief on him and I made a miracle and I made him presentable. And I made you think that he's an incredible guy. But I promise you, he is the soulmate of your daughter. And if she stays with him, I promise you that the offspring, that the children will be great and amazing people. And she and your son-in-law will be great and wonderful people. And he's got a wonderful and a kind heart. He's a good person, and if he only puts himself to it, he will be a good guy. And that's exactly what happened. The daughter stayed married to this person. They had a wonderful marriage, a wonderful life, wonderful children together, and they lived happily ever after. All the Baal Shem Tov had to do was to show them that how to package this person. But this was his soulmate. Let us all find our soulmates. Let us all pray to God that he direct us to find our soulmates. And once we are married to our soulmates, let us realize that these are our soulmates and let's stay married to them forever and ever. Have a wonderful, happy, exhilarating, and exciting Tu B'Av.